It's actually something we talked about today over on Dog Post and a premium story. I'm going to link it down below. If Georgia can just figure out this particular spot in the spring, it could be lights out for everybody else. Obviously, Georgia lost one of the top tight ends in the history of college football with Brock Bowers leaving. Probably going to be a top 15-ish, maybe a lot higher than that pick in the NFL draft. But they played a lot without Brock this past season. And so I think what you're trying to go for this spring is figuring out who your top two tight ends are. How many times you're going to use three tight end sets and so forth. And then, take it from there. But if Georgia can get something that's approaching the production for Brock Bowers just from several different guys, they're going to be doing pretty well. I think, when you look at these tight ends, they've just been really good under Todd Hartley at Georgia. Certainly the recruiting has been unbelievable. But, you start with Oscar Delp, who had 24 catches this past season. About half of those came before Brock Bowers got hurt, but his best two games, y'all, came in the two-game stretch after Brock was hurt. So when Georgia needed Oscar the most, he really stepped up. And then you had Lawson Lucky, who capped the season with a really good Orange Bowl. He had two catches the entire season, both of them at the end of the year. One with, I think Brock was at the Ole Miss game, but during reserve time, Lawson had a catch against Ole Miss and then a touchdown against Florida State. Three catches for Pierce Sperling in his time, including a 31-yarder against Florida State. So they've been very deep. And then, let's just see what happens with Ben Urasic. That's going to be he is going to be the part that we don't really know a lot about yet. You've signed a couple of guys coming in here, that's harder to know what Jaden Riddell and Colton Heinrich are going to do. But with Urasic, you could have an all SEC level player coming into your program. I mean, Georgia's not going out and getting guys in the transfer portal that are not like DeAndre Kendrick, that are not like Ra Thomas, Dominic Lovett. I mean, they're going out and getting guys who matter. And with Urasic, he could be a really good player for Georgia. He's made it pretty clear with his interviews what he's going to do. He's there to go get ready for the NFL. Something that, in theory, he could have done at Stanford. But, when you have the capability to be at an elite program like Georgia for your final season of football, for your final 6 months, in his case of football, what can you learn? What can you, what have you not learned at Stanford on the football field? Because I'm sure he learned plenty in the classroom that you didn't already know. What is the level of competition? How much higher is it in the SEC? Newsflash, is significantly higher than the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is a fun I love the Pac-12. I love West Coast football. I should be more specific. I like the Mountain West. I watch it all, man. Dog Post, we're a sick bunch of puppies, let me tell you, because we will watch it all. And so we get to see Stanford. We were probably the only freaks that stayed up, to watch Stanford, Colorado when Stanford came back on them that Friday night before Georgia Vandy. We're not right, but we're really into it, and you get a chance to see a lot of football. It is not at all the level of the SEC, but it's not bad football. It's probably, a little worse than the ACC. It depends who you're talking about. There's really no elite teams in the ACC, unless you want to count Florida State, I guess. But you had two with Washington and Oregon this past season, but after that it kind of falls off. So in theory, if you got Clemson and Florida State, UW and Oregon, and then after that it kind of fades away. It's just like that for both leagues. But I think for Georgia, figuring out who your top two guys are is going to be very helpful. Figuring out your top, if you got three, that more power to you. More power to you. Tight ends are so important, y'all, because they play on virtually every single special teams snap. Virtually everyone. Field goal. Now, field goal block, maybe not. But of the 6 special teams, they're out there on kickoff return, punt, And then field goal. Field goal block, no, probably not. But maybe that's usually defenders. So, I think for Georgia, this has been such a position of strength. Even in the days of Isaac Nana and Charlie Warner, it was a position of strength. And I think now, though, if you're going into spring ball and you're trying to figure out, okay, what can we do right now that will get us where we want to go by the fall? This is a really, it's a bad way to put it, but this is a gaping hole that the program is going to have to figure out how to address coming into the season. And they have answers. They can certainly manage the situation. It's really a good position to be in for Georgia, but they got to figure out what the key is. By the way, I just spoke with our friends at Red Zone. This bobblehead, the promotion they've been running for this is going to run out before you buy it. I'm just warning you right now. I got a link down below, but this is going to run out before you buy it. So there's an extreme. When I say extremely, I'm not talking about thousands. I'm talking about, without giving it away, hundreds. And needless to say, we have an extremely large reach. Red Zone has a really large reach. So, you want to, if you like this mascot, which is limited edition, this mascot bobblehead, take advantage of it right now. You cannot get this somewhere else. Exclusive, okay? It's hard enough to get at Red Zone right now. But I think, when you look across the board, this might be, I would say the running backs are a little bit more of a question. Both of these positions have strength coming in, but they don't have a returning player who you can say, okay, for sure, we know this guy can do it all the time, the whole season. I'd say of everyone, Oscar Delp is as close to as it gets for that sentence. But of like Branson Robinson, of all of the running backs and tight ends, he is as close as you get. And then, because we know what he's done, but Jurasic, same probably situation. If those are your top two guys, and like Lawson Lucky is your three, that means that your depth chart has become similar to what it was a year ago. You just don't have Brock Bowers. And, not having Brock Bowers is not ideal. But everybody leaves, and everyone's going to have to be replaceable because this is college sports, and people leave. It's just what it is. So, I think another issue, and we'll talk about this in the future too, is who does Georgia hire at receivers coach? How is that going to mesh? What's happening? Yada, yada, yada. But I think, for me, this is a position where, I doubt very seriously Todd Hartley's leaving, but, I don't know what I don't know. And so that means you have the coach of the position coming back. He's been very good with production on that front. I think if you can sort of nail this part down, you're going to go a long way to being successful in the fall. Carson Beck threw to the tight end a lot, but the tight end was Brock Bowers. And, look, Mike Bobo has got Mike Bobo played with really good tight ends. Larry Brown, Jermaine Wiggins. Those guys were really good. Larry Brown was a 4-year starter and a comfort, a blanket for Mike in important times. These guys are drastically more athletic. I cannot believe I'm saying that about someone like Larry. But these guys can do stuff in terms of speed and agility that the older tight ends, with maybe the exception of Randy McMichael, they just couldn't do this stuff. So it's a different type of weapon. And if Mike, I just know from my experience dealing with Mike, if Mike feels like his tight ends are his weapons, he's going to go to them more than he goes to receivers or running backs, or the percentage that you would normally go to that position gets ratcheted up more. I think Oscar Delp, it's moving time for Oscar. And what I mean by that is how, in these next 2 years, how high can you place yourself to the top of the NFL draft? Oscar Delp is hardly some, trash prospect. He will play in the NFL. The question that I'm asking right now is how high up can he go? Now, Jurasic, same situation. He's just got not as much time. So I think for everybody involved, tight end is a spot where, we because of Jurasik coming in and you got some change going on there. And I'm curious to see what happens. But if they could just nail this position down, man, they'll be way out in front heading into the fall.